Chapter 371, No Results. There was nothing we could have done. Tang Ru was helpless, those were all that we could chase down. Yi Shu was concentrated on his battle in the water, so he wasn't too clear on the situation that was happening above the water. He still had a general idea on the number of players, though. Their opponents were the guild elites. They had dozens of players and they were up against Tang Ru and Steamed Bun Invasion as well as Concealed Light, who could pretty much be ignored. They actually ran? Ha ha ha, how smart of them, Steamed Bun Invasion laughed. Yi Shu's and Su Mucheng's characters walked out of the lake. Thousand Creations followed behind them. After making their landing on the shore, they looked around and realized that they could still see the silhouettes of players who hadn't completely escaped yet. As for Thousand Waves Lake, besides them, there was no one else. Steamed Bun Invasion and Concealed Light were underleveled over here. If they aggroed any monsters, it would be troublesome for them. It could be said that Concealed Light had been very nervous the entire time. What about Horse Shooter? Steamed Bun Invasion headed to the grove to look. I told him to leave first, Yi Shu said. In the grove were players from the top guilds. After escaping from the lake, they didn't actually run very far. Instead, they went into any hiding places they could find. There was a bit of distance between here and the lake, so they wanted to continue observing Happy's plans. If there were any actual dangers, there would still be enough time for them to run away. At the same time, they took note of the hidden launcher in the groves. Misty Castle's players had already confessed, saying that this person was most likely the player who had recently left their guild, Horse Shooter. As a result, after rushing into the grove, the players searched for this player, but there were no signs of him. A great battle had taken place. There were those who were tossed into the water and those who ran away. Notifications soon popped up repeatedly in their team channel. Not a single player who had been tossed into the water had survived. None of the guild leaders had died, but their moods were even worse than those who had died. Their operation at Thousand Waves Lake had officially come to an end. Not only did they not obtain any results, but 29 players had died in the water, which was almost half of their troops. The remaining half were currently hiding in the grove bushes near the lake. The reflections from the computer screens revealed expressions of constipation from these players. They quietly watched as Lord Grimm, Cleansing Mist, and their target for this operation, Thousand Creations, walk out of the water unharmed. The 6 players on the shore were chatting with each other happily. They then looked at themselves and saw the ones who hadn't been chased down by Steamed Bun Invasion's group of 3 join them in their miserable states. Too mean. The players that came gave a detailed account of what had happened to them. Yi Chu and Su Mucheng were hiding in the water and told the guys on shore to push us in, one player said. You guys have so many people. There's only 3 of them. How could they just push you around as they pleased? Someone asked. The players who had just escaped were at a loss. Right? What was up with that? They couldn't think of an answer for it. What now? Another asked. No one said anything. The guild leaders were all here. There was no need for them to discuss with one another. What now? The guild leaders were nervously discussing this issue. With only these few players, if we fight with them head to head, we might not be worthy of being their opponents, Zhang Yu said. He had some experience fighting against them and each one had ended in a complete and utter failure. Even with their entire squad dying, they hadn't been able to take a single one of their lives. Even if we can, we can't. If they go into the water, what can we do? Arasema said. This is the perfect leveling place for them, too. If they stay here and level, 5 days later, they can just swim over to the dungeon. Changing Spring had predicted what everyone didn't want to hear. F***ck, all the guild leaders cursed. Let's leave for now. From a long-term perspective, there's no point in sitting here, waiting like idiots, Arasema said and turned around to leave the grove. Once he moved, the other herb garden players naturally followed. The others didn't have any other suggestions, so they left, too. It seems like killing them here will be difficult. We can only have our players in other leveling areas be aware and see if we can catch them somewhere else, the guild leaders continued to discuss as they retreated. The problem is if they stay here to level and refuse to leave. What do we do then? Changing Spring said. Everyone was silent. Issues, such as their supplies and repairing their equipment, weren't brought up. If they were lone heroes, they might be forced to return to the city because of these difficulties. However, since they were all in the same guild and the same team, these wouldn't be an issue for them. They could just ask someone else to do it. Although they wanted to completely cut off their supply, no guild had that type of control, no matter how big they were. The players left the Thousand Waves Lake leveling area. They had walked for a while, but they still hadn't come up with any ideas. Someone suddenly asked, "Where are we going now?" The guild leaders at the front heard this and all stared blankly. After pondering for a bit, they said in a not-so-confident voice, "The city." "Why the city? Is there something we need to do?" someone asked. The guild leaders' faces were almost about to fall off. The operation resulted them in returning to the city in tatters. They had nothing to show for it. It was truly quite embarrassing. "Shut up. Shut up." The guild leader of the curious player immediately shouted at him in private. "Nothing for now," Changing Spring said quite calmly. They hadn't come up with any plans after discussing this entire way. He believed that even if they continue discussing all the way back to the city, they still wouldn't be able to come up with anything. "If there's nothing to do, then why don't we go level?" someone suggested. When the guild players leveled up, they usually did so in teams. If they went to go and level, they would obviously leave from their current team. But if they left now, it would reveal which players were from which guilds. "Go ahead. We'll disperse first." Changing Spring was too lazy to argue. He was this team's leader, so he immediately dispersed the team. As a result, the parties began to separate with each unit being from a different guild. With this dispersion, each team had 2 or 3 players. They then scattered and the place turned empty. That can't just be it, can it? The team had dispersed and everyone had scattered. But the group chat outside of the game was still there. Arasama went over there to talk. "If you have any methods, say it." Zhang Yu was clearly agitated. Arasama was silent. If he had any methods, he would have said them earlier. "Tell us if anything happens," Changing Spring concluded. He was saying that they should discuss again after something happens. If not, then there was no point in wasting their time. As a result, the group chat went silent. After the team dispersed, the players that had scattered were quiet, as well. Time went by quickly. Nighttime was the game's peak with players everywhere. This was also the time when the guild had the most players online. As the guild's elites, although they had been gathered together previously to be soldiers, in the guild, they were all of high status and had their own responsibilities. They quickly got busy. In the blink of an eye, the early morning came and the number of players online decreased. After the guild developed, the guild leaders and elites couldn't only level. There would always be a few guild tasks that they had to take care of. For example, killing 1,000 creations. Even though they had completely failed, it was still a task from the guild that they had to take care of. During these early morning hours, these players could finally have time to concentrate on leveling. The dungeon counts refreshed. They formed parties and began to head to the dungeons to begin. Changing Spring and others like him had run over the new server to handle the issues here. They obviously wouldn't do any leveling. They weren't online in the 10th server right now and were on their main accounts in the Heavenly Domain. "How depressing," Zhang Yu suddenly yelled in the group chat. This group chat had even more people online than before. Zhang Yu and the other 3 great guild leaders weren't the only ones there. Guilds like Misty Castle had also joined in after hearing the news. "Even if you're depressed, you still have to work," Howling Heights guild leader, West Riding Wind, replied. Right now, the Heavenly Domain's guild leaders were heading to the dungeons. "Which dungeon are you planning on tackling today?" Misty Castle's guild leader, Misty Lock asked. "Floor within a floor. We've only advanced to 37%. West Riding Wind said. The floor within a floor he was talking about was the largest scale dungeon in the game and would refresh every week. A team, which was 100 players, could enter each time. The dungeon was extremely difficult. In addition, the battle line was extremely long. Whenever a team tackled the dungeon, they would usually advance to a certain percent each day and save it before continuing on the next day. This was one of the features that was provided by the system for these types of large-scale dungeons. 37%. That's not too good. You're probably going to be playing the entire night then. No, Mistylock said. Sigh, even with that, it'll be difficult. This time, most of our players are from the reserve unit. 22 players have already died at only 37% progress. It would already be good if we can get to 75%, West Riding Wind said. These two guild leaders didn't care at all about Zhang Yu's sigh about the 10th server and went on to discuss about the dungeon in the heavenly domain. Even though they were competitors, aside from their arch-rival guilds, none of them would turn in disgust when they saw each other. This was more and more like the style in the pro scene. On the field, it was either you die or I die. But outside of the competition, they all looked like friends. You too. This group chat isn't for you to discuss this. Zhang Yu clearly wasn't happy. Ha ha, the three great guilds leaders are all here. As long as we give you guys our support, it'll be fine. What can we do? Mistylock said. HMPH, Zhang Yu wasn't able to say anything and could only type out his emotions. There wasn't anything to say. Suddenly, someone gave out a curse. It was only a 10th server guild leader, though, Blossom Valley's backlight bomb. He had typed out an angry face and then followed, "Our dungeon team has been killed." Chapter 372, another team wiped out. What's going on? The person who replied to Backlight Bomb was Blossom Valley's main guild leader, Blooming Blossom. With so many guild leaders in the group chat, he didn't want to appear like he had lost his temper. As a result, even though the bad news was about his guild, he replied calmly, as if he were used to these sorts of gales. It's Lord Grimm's group. They hadn't left Thousand Waves Lake and when they saw our team, they went up to kill us, Backlight Bomb said. What? Hearing this news, Blooming Blossom hadn't spoken yet, when Zhang Yu leapt up. This is troublesome, Arisema said. How could the others not understand what he meant by this? The others immediately became worried. Thousand Waves Lake. After wiping out Blossom Valley's team, Yishu and his other friends popped up out of the water. What do you think? This is more fun than stealing monsters, right? Yishu said to Thousand Creations. Thousand Creations didn't know how to reply, so he sent out a sweating face emoticon. When he stole monsters, it couldn't be said that he did it because he liked bullying others. As long as he was interested, he wasn't afraid of stealing from anyone. It was just that stealing monsters from these types of guild elites wasn't easy. For one, these players wouldn't be any worse than Thousand Creations and two, these players didn't usually level alone, they usually leveled together in a group. In Thousand Creations' vast amounts of experience, there had been times where he hadn't been able to steal a monster and there had also been times when he had been killed after stealing. Of course, he had successfully escaped, too, but that was relatively rare. As for killing all of the players after stealing from them, that was something that he had never done before. And now, with the god behind him, they didn't steal monsters. Instead, they directly went to kill the players. Even though it wasn't without reason, the quality of the players being killed wasn't normal. The elites from the top guilds could be considered as the top experts of the 10th server. Yet their team of 5 might not have even been able to tell which direction they were in or when they were killed and turned into corpses. Thousand Creations, Tangru and Steam Bun Invasion had wanted to help. But they hadn't been able to find a chance to. They simply couldn't get used to the water yet. There were two main differences between the battles in the water and the ones on land. First, there were more choices to move. And second, the movement speed in the water was affected. Getting used to this type of environment was mainly done through experience. As a result, even players with strong mechanics like Tangru and Steam Bun Invasion weren't much different than Concealed Light in the water. Tangru was currently fighting with a monster in the water. They were basically hitting each other back and forth because, after all, monsters weren't players. The majority of them only used simple attacks. Tangru wanted to dodge as if she were on ground, but because of the water resistance, she wasn't able to grasp the timing correctly. Tangru didn't give up though. She continued to try, while still sending attacks at the monster. Her attacks could still hit though. After all, monsters didn't have very good awareness for dodging. As for the monster's attacks on her, Tangru was very aware of them, but she just couldn't dodge them. And with this back and forth, she did finish. Her appearance afterwards wasn't pretty though. I can never dodge it, Tang Ru said to Yi Shu. Your movements in the water are much slower, so your judgment and timing will be different than they are on land. Telling you the numbers won't help you. You just have to slowly get used to it, Yi Shu said. Okay, Tang Ru replied and continued to look for monsters. Use the limited practice method, Yi Shu said. Most monsters won't dodge. Use limited practice and see whether you can predict correctly where your attack will hit, Yi Shu said. Okay, Tang Ru nodded her head and continued to practice. Yi Shu didn't call them into the water with any hopes that they could help him, but rather to use this chance to have them practice battles in the water. If their goals were to be pro players, they couldn't have such a large weakness. If not, the opposing team would simply choose a water map and win with ease. Steamed bun invasion and concealed light were too low-leveled. Hitting back and forth with the monster wouldn't be very good. As a result, these two players attacked a monster 2v1. For now, Yi Shu couldn't say anything to concealed light. However, from the looks of it, Steamed Bun Invasion's ability to adapt was much better than Tang Ru's. After a short while, clear progress could already be seen. Fight while walking with me, Yi Shu said. Senior, it should be swimming, Steamed Bun Invasion corrected. Okay, swimming. Fight while swimming with me, Yi Shu had his Lord Grim aggro monsters. Their team leveled in Thousand Waves Lake while they were wandering around. After hunting down Blossom Valley's team, Thousand Creations already knew what Yi Shu's goal was. The top guilds wanted to chase and kill him. But now, they were guarding Thousand Waves Lake and killing any guild dungeon team they saw. The hunted had become the hunters and the hunters had become the hunted. Thousand Creations thought about this and felt quite happy. This really was more fun than stealing monsters. The others swam while fighting monsters, while he was focused on searching for any signs of other players. Over here, he suddenly heard Yi Shu call out. Thousand Creations turned around to look. He had gotten a bit far from the team. As he swam over, he felt that it was a bit strange. Weren't they just blindly searching? Why did it matter what route they took? But not long after, several silhouettes appeared in front of them. After taking a closer look, it was a team of 5 players. Players, Thousand Creations exclaimed excitedly. Yup. Everyone, be careful. Keep the same pace as me, Yi Shu said. His Lord Grim had already plunged into the water. When players dove underwater, they would have to come up for air eventually, so when they needed to hurry, they would usually swim above the water. When they saw their targets, they immediately dove into the water, so that they wouldn't be discovered. Is it really necessary, God? It's just 5 players. Thousand Creations also dove into the water, while carefully sending Yi Shu a message, expressing his doubts. In his eyes, with this god's skill, wiping out these 5 players would be too easy. There was no need for them to hide. The other side is definitely on guard against us. Only by hiding can we make sure they won't run away, Yi Shu replied. Oh, Thousand Creations understood. The god was saying that if they were going to kill them, they had to kill them all. They followed Yi Shu's Lord Grim, changing their pace or going up for water from time to time. As expected, those 5 players didn't show any signs that there was something amiss. Changing pace wasn't new to Thousand Creations. At that time in Line Canyon, he had learned from it and knew that it was a way to efficiently use stamina and improve their average speed. Now that he knew the person in front of him was God Yi Chu, Thousand Creations wouldn't doubt him and immediately followed behind to learn it well. After playing with him that time, Thousand Creations had tried studying this technique. After all, for someone who was often running away because of his kill stealing, such a technique was very useful. His studying hadn't gotten much results, but he could tell that their current pace was somewhat fast. With their current pace, their stamina wouldn't last for very long. It seemed a bit different than what God had done at that time. Thousand Creations was about to ask, when suddenly he recalled that they were in the water. Perhaps this had something to do with the difference in movement speed between in the water and on land? He pondered over this and didn't ask for now. He continued to observe the distance between them and the 5 players, while making his own assessment. As the distance between the 2 sides shrunk, Thousand Creations was beginning to understand their stamina usage. He discovered that their pace might not be the most efficient usage of stamina, but it was enough to chase down those 5 players. And since this still allowed them to chase down those 5 players, it meant that this was the fastest way to chase down those 5 players. Thousand Creations finally realized this after thinking about it for a while. He immediately had even more respect for this god. Just how much experience and calculating ability did he have? Reality turned out to be just like Thousand Creations had predicted. The distance between them grew closer and closer. When Thousand Creations could see the splashes from those 5 players, Cleansing Mist lifted up her hand cannon. Crash! A burst of bubbles blasted out from the cannon. Cleansing Mist was also pushed back by the recoil. In the water, even normal attacks would cause the character to be pushed back from the recoil. 3 anti-tank missiles shot out. Yishu's Lord Grimm also flew through the water like a torpedo. The missiles exploded and violent waves rolled out. The 3 anti-tank missiles were in a triangle formation. Not a single one of the 5 players fell as the waves pushed them into the air. Yishu's Lord Grimm quickly swam a bit. He suddenly lifted his weapon and a burst of bubbles blasted outwards. Just as the 5 players fell back into the water, another wave lifted them up into the air. Thousand Creations looked on with wide eyes. They truly deserved to be called the Golden Duo. After 2 rounds of anti-tank missiles, the 5 players dropped down as Lord Grimm went up to kill them. These 5 knew what was happening. But they didn't have any thoughts of resisting and only thought of running away. But as soon as they hit the water, they were attacked on all sides. Lord Grimm was already in front of him. How could they even have any thoughts of attending to the others? Even though the others were complete noobs in the water, they were still useful as blockades, especially Concealed Light. His summoned creatures were running around all over the place. The 5 players looked around wildly, but they couldn't find any escape routes. With Yishu and Sumucheng attacking, the 5 players didn't have any chance of escaping. After a short moment, in the group chat, Misty Castle's 10th server guild leader Misty Hayes said with a sullen expression, "One of our teams has died, too." Chapter 373, Blue River's Analysis. With Blooming Blossom as a model, Misty Castle's guild leader, Misty Locke, felt too embarrassed to go into a rage because of his team's wipeout, so he calmly replied, "What's the situation?" Hazy Mist felt quite puzzled over this question. After a long while, he still couldn't think of any other way of saying it, so he repeated what he felt that everyone should already know: they were killed by Happy's players at Thousand Waves Lake. "Of course we know that," Misty Locke continued, "but didn't we already warn everyone? Why weren't you being careful?" "We were careful. But they somehow got close to us." Hazy Mist had also asked the 5 who had been wiped out about this issue, so he simply passed on what those 5 had said. "With God Yi Chu there, the things they can do will definitely surpass our expectations," Arasama said. Many others agreed. They had all experienced the water battle previously. At the time, none of them had seen how Yi Chu and Sumucheng had gotten into the water without them noticing. Other than their opponent's ability surpassing their expectations, how else could they explain it? And now, even while being careful, they had still been closed in on and killed without them knowing. The guild leaders appeared very calm in the group chat, but they were actually very worried when they were speaking to their own guilds. They hastily confirmed that their teams were, in fact, being careful. Apart from this, what else could they do? After understanding the circumstances, the group was once again at their wits' end. None of them could think of a solution. The guild leaders hated how this was happening in the new server. If this had happened in an old server, they could immediately transfer players over from the heavenly domain there. No matter how great Yi Chu was, there was no way he could fight off a sea of people. But in the new server, there were only 100 players that could reach this leveling area. All of the others were too underleveled. Plus, the majority of them were new players, so many of them would have their doubts and couldn't be used for much yet. The group chat was in complete silence. West Riding Wind and Misty Locke, who had been talking about their situations in the heavenly domain, felt that it was too inappropriate to chat. None of them could come up with any countermeasures. All they could do was warn their teams repeatedly to stay careful. After several minutes of worrying, the overall guild leaders were finally notified by the 10th server guild leaders that their teams had entered the dungeon. Only then were they able to heave a sigh of relief. What about Yi Chu? Where are they right now? Everyone was once again discussing this question. He's probably wandering around in the lake, someone replied. No one could see how he was gnashing his teeth in anger, though. Are they actually planning on wandering around all day? Why does that question sound somewhat familiar? It was true. That question had already been asked about before, except it was from a different perspective. Before, they had thought that the other side were staying in Thousand Waves Lake to protect themselves. But now, they knew that staying in Thousand Waves Lake was a form of attack. Not only was the dungeon in the middle of Thousand Waves Lake, but the monsters for leveling and the main quests were all located in this leveling area. If they were forced back to Sin City in order to level because of this threat, their leveling speed would definitely slow down a lot. But what if they didn't retreat? Every time they were killed, they would lose 10% of their experience. This loss would be even worse than retreating back to Sin City. Should we gather up everyone? If we have 100 players, Yi Chu's group might not be brave enough to attack, Misty Lock suggested. Are you sure that he won't be brave enough? The main speakers in this group chat were the overall guild leaders, while the 10th server guild leaders were mostly there to convey the orders to the guild, so they rarely made any suggestions. But Blue River, Blue Brook Guild's 10th server guild leader, suddenly opposed. Oh, Brother Blue River, what do you think? Misty Lock didn't look down on this guild leader because, after all, Blue River was a famous player in the heavenly domain. Apart from not having as many responsibilities as an overall guild leader, he wasn't any worse in any other area. I came to the 10th server early on and I came into contact with Lord Grimm or Yi Chu very early. Our big guild was on the losing side in every interaction ever since we first met. He had always been in control. I think Tyrannical Ambitions Cold Knight knows this very well, too. Cold Knight was gloomy. He had prolonged experience with him, but his was different from Blue River's. He was from Tyranny, the team whose mortal enemy was Yi Chu. Against such a rival, even if he was convinced in his heart, he couldn't say it out loud, especially when there were so many players. I do. After a moment of hesitation, Cold Knight decided to reply honestly. With a human testimony, Blue River continued, I don't think I need to talk about how skilled Yi Chu is. The most important point is his style. At the very least, I've never seen him choose to retreat or surrender. We might have the advantage for one moment, but he'll always have a backup plan and in the end, the ones who lose out are us. Who knows how many times this has happened before? I'm sure Cold Knight also knows this, too. Hey, Cold Knight privately messaged Blue River, don't keep dragging me along. Don't you know Tyranny's position? It's very shameful like this. You think it won't be shameful if we continue fighting? Blue River asked back. What exactly do you plan on saying? Cold Knight asked. What exactly do you plan on saying? Blue River, a guild leader asked in the group chat. Many of them were already frowning. This was because Blue River sounded as if he were from Yi Chu's group. Even if this guy was a god, how could a guild leader have such a weak will? It was too inappropriate. When talking about an enemy, you should be despising him. What I'm trying to say is, Blue River typed and then paused for a bit. Don't regard Yi Chu as simply a top-tier pro player. In reality, even within the game, his experience is incomparable. There's nothing that he isn't familiar with in the game. In addition, his individual skill is something that none of us can deal with. It's by relying on all of this that he's able to create such a huge movement in the 10th server. His overwhelmingness has always been like our current situation. We know that he's waiting in Thousand Waves Lake. We know what he's doing, but the problem is, what can we do to stop him? That's why I'm saying, against such an opponent, retreating is the choice for the greatest victory, Blue River concluded. No one spoke back in the group chat. Blue River had no way of telling what they were thinking from looking at the empty chat. After staring for a long while in silence, Blue River took the initiative to speak once again. There's one more thing that I think we need to pay careful consideration to, Blue River said. I doubt any of you think Yi Chu is making a guild simply for the fun of it, right? I'm sure you've all watched the All-Star Weekend. All of the pros saw Yi Chu's dragon raises its head as a declaration of his return. By observing his movements in the game, I think that his intent is to create his own pro team with Guild Happy as the team's foundation in the game. That's why I'm saying that there's no way we can avoid having Guild Happy competing with us. This is where I don't understand what you're saying, Blue River, Mistylock typed. You said that there's no way we can avoid competing with Guild Happy. But before that, you said that our only option was to retreat. So what you're saying is that we should just sit still and watch as Guild Happy takes the throne and then let him eat us up, Mistylock said. Hold on, I'm not done talking yet, Blue River replied calmly. This isn't the point I wanted to make. The point I wanted to make stems from what I can deduce from Yichu's intent. Happy will continue to develop and will definitely enter the heavenly domain, and Yichu already has a huge advantage. He hadn't used it in the past, but he started to use it quite a bit. This advantage is his identity. In the new server, the usefulness of his advantage is limited because most of the players here are new to glory. However, in the heavenly domain, if he exposed his identity, what do you guys think? How many players would follow after him? Blue River said. The hearts of every single guild leader there shook wildly. They immediately realized the severity of this issue. Just a while ago, Huang Shaoshan's troubling reign showed up online just for a bit. However, his brief appearance gathered a huge amount of spectators. If such a god went to create a guild with the intent of developing it, the amount of appeal the guild would have would be world-shaking. They had no way of imagining how many followers he would have. You're right, Blue River's senior, Changing Spring, stood out and supported him. No one could make any objections to this. In the end, Mistylock said, your words make even less sense than before. He's so terrifying, yet you want us to retreat. What do you mean by this? My reasoning is very simple. In the new server, we have very limited manpower. I believe that we have no way of winning against him, so retreating will allow us to keep any benefits we've already gained in the new server. If we continue fighting, our level advantage will be lost. As for when he gets to the heavenly domain, if he makes any big moves like this, I remind everyone to be careful. If we're going to resist, we all have to do it together, Blue River said. So you're saying that in the end, we'll have to resist in the heavenly domain? Correct, but there's one more thing, Blue River said. Still more, everyone was clearly a bit scared. The issues Blue River brought up made them all feel uneasy. Our fight in the heavenly domain won't be as far away as you guys think. Don't forget that Yichu's character is unspecialized. Unspecialized aren't able to level up in the normal server once they reach level 50. This means that he'll probably complete the heavenly domain challenge at level 50. In other words, he won't be entering the heavenly domain at level 70, but rather at level 50. Chapter 374, Watching a Fire from the Other Side of the Shore. Beating the heavenly domain challenge at level 50. If a normal player did this, all of the guild leaders would flip their tables in shock. But because they knew that Yichu, the top-tier pro player, was going to do it, they weren't as shocked at the news. But in any case, this was something that had never been done before. The Heavenly Domain Challenge consisted of many difficult battles and achievements that required a lot of time to obtain, such as a certain amount of wins in the arena. When the Heavenly Domain Challenge had first started, it wasn't impossible to complete the challenge at level 50. The reason that no one did it then was because there were too many tasks to do, so if the player started it at level 50, they would have leveled up several times from doing it and it still wouldn't have been finished. As the level cap continued to increase, the difficulty of the Heavenly Domain Challenge continued to increase as well. Nowadays, the level cap was level 70. Completing the Heavenly Domain Challenge at level 50 would naturally be seen as impossible. However, for someone like Yichu, this task would have to be viewed at in a different light. They were all still shocked, but they didn't feel like it would be impossible for him to do. If they had began planning now what they would do once he rushed to the Heavenly Domain at level 50, they would have quite a bit of time to prepare. This is what I wanted to say. Blue River closed the curtains. In the end, this was the problem he had analyzed. As for the problem of how to resolve it, he simply proposed to retreat in the new server, a suggestion that everyone else disliked. Although, for Blue River, after telling everyone what he had analyzed, he suddenly felt like a heavy burden had been lifted off of his shoulders. The discussion in the group chat continued. Honestly speaking, I think that if Yichu's might is that great, then our best option is still to deal with him in the 10th server. If we're able to stop him from reaching the heavenly domain, then that would be way too perfect, Zhang Yu said. It's easy to say that, but how are we going to deal with him? Right now, he's the one who is dealing with our elite teams, Arasema said. Blue River's words are reasonable. With our current circumstances, there's really nothing we can do, Mistylock expressed. For water battles, unless we use pro players, we really can't do anything since we don't have enough manpower, West Riding Wind said. Are we really going to retreat in the new server and wait until he gets to the heavenly domain to deal with him? Someone muttered. Sweat, if Yichu's identity was announced publicly, his guild's influence will instantly skyrocket to the top 10 guilds. To tell you guys the truth, I really like Yichu. If I can actually start up a guild together with him, I'd be pretty happy. F***ck, everyone disdained. If Yichu really does develop his guild, form a team, and then return to the alliance, that'll have a big impact on the pro scene, no? Maybe if we report it to the higher-ups, they might send us pro players to interfere. From what I saw during the All-Star weekend, the majority of the pro players were looking forward to Yichu returning. Even Han Wenking did, and he's Yichu's mortal enemy. That's on the program, though. It's for the public to see, so of course they're going to show their support. How do you not know this? Piss off. Our Team XXX definitely isn't like that. Many other similar words were said at the same time. The guild leaders jumped out to support their respective teams' pro players. They believed that their pros were definitely honest, while the others were all just posers. Right at this moment, everyone in the group chat became their team's #1 fan and disputed in order to protect their team's reputation. After several minutes, because Changing Spring, who didn't like to chat, fortunately didn't participate in the dispute, he was able to keep a clear head and quickly type something to keep the chat in control. Seeing that Changing Spring had typed out several messages, they respected it and quickly stopped their banter. The club's stances are what's important, the clear-headed Changing Spring typed out after waiting for everyone to calm down. Everyone immediately understood after seeing this. A pro player's attitude only represented an individual. If they were going to need pro players to come into the game, this would have to depend on what the clubs wanted. The club's stances, Zhang Yu repeated these words. Everyone else immediately felt like he was going to say something and quieted down. I've decided. Our herb garden will accept Blue River's proposal. We will choose to retreat in the new server. We'll be leaving first. No one had thought that Arasema would be the first to speak up. They hadn't even finished discussing it yet, so why did he suddenly make the decision already? The others didn't really understand and wanted to ask, but Arasema had already left the group chat, along with Herb Garden's 10th server guild leader, Plantago Seed. That was kind of weird, Mistylock said after seeing Arasema leave. It was. For him to suddenly make a decision like that, what is he planning? Others began to ponder. Maybe. Zhang Yu, who had been interrupted by Arasema, finally spoke. Right now, it's the second half of the season. The teams are all busy. Bothering them right now would distract the pro players and would make them lose the focus which is needed to deal with these in-game matters. Let alone the clubs not being happy. I don't think you guys want this to happen either, right? After all of our efforts in-game are for supporting the team and not to drag the team behind. If we really did rely on them to deal with these matters, that wouldn't be a victory. I'm sure everyone knows how much effort has to be put into chasing and killing. If the club take the initiative to interfere, then that's fine, but if we request it, then it would be our mistake. Zhang Yu concluded. Right, everyone agreed after hearing it. Arasema probably thought about this. What a sneaky guy, though. He didn't want to do it, but he didn't say why, so he left it to us, hoping we would ask the clubs for help. That way, he would reap the benefits without doing anything and therefore, his team wouldn't be distracted, Zhang Yu said. How evil, everyone looked down on Arasema. He really didn't need to be like that, Zhang Yu sent out a sly smiley face. Oh, go on, everyone supported Zhang Yu. This was because they were very confident that Zhang Yu had a good proposal to make. If not, he wouldn't have revealed what Arasema had been planning. If he didn't have anything to say, he wouldn't have said anything about Arasema's leave. Everyone understood the relationships between guilds, however, they just never spoke about it. Previously, they had cursed at Arasama, but in reality, there was nothing wrong with what he did. There are definitely people who don't want to see Yichu returning to the pro scene, Zhang Yu said. No one said anything and waited for Zhang Yu to say it. Did you guys forget about Yichu's strange relationship with Excellent Dynasty? Zhang Yu finally said the answer. Oh. Messages expressing their sudden understanding of everything immediately filled the screen. The relationship between Yichu and Excellent Dynasty was extremely strange. With Yichu's identity and ability, if he left the team and was put into the game, he could easily take over the guild as the overall guild leader. Even if he didn't stay in the club, he should at least have some friendly feelings for his own club, right? But in reality, he didn't. Before all this, since they didn't know of Lord Grimm's identity, it could have been ignored. However, after they knew it, they felt that it was very strange. Some had even directly asked Excellent Dynasty's guild leader, Chen Yahui, but the other side wouldn't respond. There was clearly something that was going on inside. They couldn't guess what the exact situation was, but it was clear that Yichu had some sort of fight with Excellent Era, and it wasn't just an ordinary one either. His retirement might have been forced. If this was so, then Excellent Era definitely wouldn't want to see Yichu returning. If it was not, they wouldn't have forced him to retire. That's why I say that if we take a seat and ignore Yichu and Happy's development, there will definitely be people who will be even more uneasy than us, Zhang Yu said. And don't forget, Excellent Era's achievements this year are quite terrible. From how they are doing right now, staying in the alliance won't be a problem, but their chances at making it into the playoffs are almost 0%. That's why they have the capability of putting in more effort to deal with Yichu in the game, Zhang Yu said. That makes sense. But the others were clearly hesitant. It's not like we can do anything right now. It'd be best to just take a step back and see what Excellent Era is going to do. After that, we can react depending on the situation. If they really don't do anything, we can think of something when that time comes. Zhang Yu had clearly thought about this thoroughly. As Excellent Dynasty's arch-enemy, he was more sensitive to their matters, which was why he had been able to think of this. Watching a fire from the other side of the shore, Changing Spring concluded. Correct, Zhang Yu was very pleased. With those two guilds fighting each other, it didn't matter which side won. He'd be happy all the same. Although from a larger point of view, he hoped that Yichu would be suppressed. After all, his skill in the game was too terrifying. He felt that dealing with him was even more difficult than dealing with the entire Excellent Dynasty team combined. Chapter 375, Cede Territory or Pay Reparations? Zhang Yu's solution might not be certain, but right now, they still had no way of dealing with Yichu hunting their guilds at Thousand Waves Lake. It might be best to do as Zhang Yu said and retreat from this obstacle for now. Later, if they had to do something, they could turn hostile. In any case, battles between guilds were common occurrences. Everyone had a tacit mutual understanding. Blue River had been sitting idly, but who would have thought that he'd be fired at while lying down? The group decided that Blue River would be the one to negotiate with Yichu and settle this matter. You've come into contact with him the most often, so you understand him the best. The words that Blue River said himself had been used against him by the guild leaders. Even his own comrade, Changing Spring, had declared his position. He clearly thought that Blue River was also the most suitable for this task. Blue River was naturally very depressed because this task wasn't as simple as just talking for a bit. When you want to kill, you go kill. But when you can't kill, you ask the other side not to kill. The world wasn't so convenient like that. Even though Blue River didn't see Yichu as a bad person, the problem was that, this time, retreating may only be a temporary measure, but since they were leaving behind helpers, Blue River didn't think that Yichu wouldn't be able to see through their future preparations. Even if Yichu couldn't see through their schemes, he should definitely be able to anticipate them delaying for time. After all, his terrain advantage at Thousand Waves Lake wasn't something that he would have at every level stage. After getting past this level stage, there would be a new leveling area to go to. I can't guarantee it, Blue River admitted. It doesn't matter. There's nothing that's 100% in this world. Just do your best, the guild leaders told him sincerely. Blue River wanted to curse at them. The words coming out of their mouths sounded pretty, but if he wasn't able to succeed, he didn't believe that these guild leaders would still be so good-natured. In the future, they might take revenge on their Blue Brook Guild because of it. Blue River didn't think that Changing Spring wouldn't know of this. He couldn't understand why Changing Spring would let him do this errand. I can't guarantee it, Blue River persisted. He gave his opinion and refused to let go. Brother Blue River, this isn't right. We aren't telling you that you must succeed. We just think that you have a better chance at doing so. You have to at least try. You're hurting our hearts too much. Blue River laughed grimly. In the heavenly domain, they were all trying to kill each other and constantly poked holes into one another's hearts. The deeper the hole, the happier they would be. Now they were telling him that their hearts were hurting. Blue River could only laugh at this. Seeing that Blue River wasn't responding, they switched targets and began peddling to the Blue Brook Guild's leader, Changing Spring. They were clearly trying to get Changing Spring to persuade Blue River to go. Changing Spring didn't say much either and simply sent Blue River a question mark. I can't guarantee it, Blue River didn't hesitate. I can't guarantee it, Blue River saw his own words get typed out into the group chat by Changing Spring. He was quite sure that his guild leader had just copy and pasted it. This guy refused to let up. No matter how angry they were, there was nothing that they could do, except ridicule him in secret. They weren't from the same party, so how could their remarks do anything? They did this often, so none of their words had any effect. After a bit, they felt like there was no point, so in the end, they had to choose someone else. How about we have Brother Cold Knight go? In the 10th server, besides Blue River, Tyrannical Ambition has interacted with Lord Grim the most, so you should understand him well, too, Blossom Valley's 10th server guild leader Backlight Bomb suggested. Cold Knight's expression turned dark. His senior, Zhang Yu, came out to support him, though, everyone. With our guild's background, our interaction with him will be filled with tension. If you have us go, I doubt we would be able to succeed. His words made sense. But in truth, even if Cold Knight now knew that Lord Grim was Yi Chu had known that they were Tyrannical Ambition from the very beginning. After so many interactions with each other, Cold Knight had never felt like the rivalry between their backgrounds had meant anything to Yi Chu, so even if their reason made sense, it wasn't actually true. Of course, Cold Knight wouldn't say anything. In truth, his thoughts were the same as Blue River. He knew that this was difficult to guarantee and didn't want the guns to be pointed at him. As a result, he refused to let up as well. There was nothing that they could do. In the end, they directly mentioned Zhang Yu's name. Guild leader Zhang Yu, you made this plan, so you choose someone. Don't say Blue River. He's already expressed that he won't do it. How about we do a vote, Zhang Yu suggested. Vote? If someone gets picked, will no one refuse? Someone said. Refuse? Blue River wasn't being vague. He directly objected. Everyone gave out helpless expressions. Zhang Yu saw that his brilliant plan was actually being stopped at this place. He couldn't point at the other guild's members, and Blue River refused to go. If they voted, Cold Knight would definitely be chosen. Since things were like this, Zhang Yu decided to take it up like a man. Cold Knight, you go. If you don't succeed, we won't blame you. We'll make an agreement. If Cold Knight doesn't succeed, no one will blame him. How about it? Zhang Yu said. That's fine. That's fine, quite a few guild leaders agreed. I took a screenshot for proof, Zhang Yu said. The screenshot will be proof. The others agreed. There was no point dragging this on. No one wanted to delay anymore. The faster they got this done, the better. As a result, Cold Knight was forced to do the negotiations. He was sent online to talk with Yi Chu and make peace. God, Cold Knight wasn't as stubborn as Blue River. After being sent by Zhang Yu, he could only agree. What's up? Yi Chu replied quickly. He was clearly taking it easy. Cough, cough. Can we discuss something? Cold Knight said. Go ahead, Yi Chu replied. Can we not fight? We surrender this time. Cold Knight thought about it for a bit and decided that he might as well get straight to the point. He probably wasn't a match in speaking in a roundabout way anyways. Oh. Sure. Thanks. Cold Knight didn't think that the other side would be so quick. He was so happy, his eyes were sparkling. Cede territory or pay reparations? Yi Shu replied. What? Cold Knight replied, but after pondering over it, sweat began to drip from his head. The territory you have to cede is Thousand Waves Lake, so that we can level up. The reparations are the same. I'll send you guys a materials list, Yi Shu replied. Cold Knight had already anticipated this reply. He had already run out of sweat to sweat. It shouldn't go to that extent. Cold Knight didn't have any thoughts of negotiating. He was just saying nonsense at this point. It's a surrender, no? Don't you have to cede your territory and pay reparations? I'm letting you guys choose one of the two. Aren't I nice? Yi Shu said. Cold Knight was depressed. Even though he was in charge, if he had to accept these conditions, the promise that the guild leaders had made might not be enough. Thinking of their promise, though, Cold Knight had his own idea. He directly copied down his chat with Lord Grimm and sent it over to the group chat. Everyone, what are your thoughts? Cold Knight acted tactfully. He wouldn't be their negotiator. He would simply be passing on their messages. Lord Grimm's material list. The 10th server guild leaders knew about this, but the Heavenly Domain guild leaders didn't know, so they asked, what is this? It's very simple. It's his condition. Blue River wasn't busy, so he explained it to everyone. The others clearly didn't have very good opinions of Blue River and ignored him. They listened to a different 10th server guild leader explain it. Give Thousand Waves Lake to him? F***CK, their guild only has 5 level 40s. 2 of them can't even join until 5 days later. One guild leader was furious. Maybe we should have a look at the materials list, West Riding Wind said. Yeah, let's take a look at the list, Mistylock agreed. The 10th server guild leaders chose to stay silent. They wouldn't say to look at the list because they anticipated that the list would also be brutal and inhumane. The main guild leaders would definitely have their eyes opened. Cold Knight didn't dawdle and immediately asked Lord Grimm if they could take a look at the materials list. Yi Shu had clearly anticipated that they would talk it over. After fighting with them previously, he knew which guilds had participated. He swiftly sent them a long list. The speed made Cold Knight believe that he had prepared for this long beforehand. F***CK me. How can he be so heartless? Sure enough, after the list was sent to the group chat, the main guild leaders all went crazy. His way of getting materials has always been far more efficient than looting, Blue River mocked. This. Mistylock looked at the list and kept saying, this. He couldn't seem to find any words. Though if you guys think about this carefully, if we split this up evenly among everyone, the list is in our acceptable range, Blue River said. Blue River, which side are you on? Someone began to doubt Blue River's position. I'm just helping you guys understand his style. He's always been like that. He'll make your heart hurt, but he won't go past what your heart can't take. I'm not the only one who has experienced this before, right? Blue River said. The majority of the 10th server guild leaders were already used to it, but the main guild leaders clearly couldn't bear it. It doesn't matter, Mistylock finally said after saying this many times, I don't believe it. Thousand Waves Lake is so large. They only have those few people. How can they control the entire field? Brother Misty, you're right. West Riding Wind, who was always quite close with Mistylock, expressed his approval.